The brutal truth behind how Starbucks dominated coffee forever. Exclusive story. On a hot summer day in Seattle, a strange buzz fired up the air. The kind of excitement that thrummed through the streets like an electric storm. Starbucks was more than just a coffee shop, it was a force of nature, a colossus ready to devour its unsuspecting prey. From its humble beginnings in a dusty corner of Pike Place Market, it has boomed into a global phenomenon, leaving coffee shops trembling with fear. But how did this happen? What twisted secrets lay behind its rise? No one could have guessed the length Starbucks would go to seize control over our cup of joe. For many, Starbucks is a daily ritual, that rich aroma wrapping around them like a warm blanket. But what lurks beneath that cozy veneer? Customers have spotted baristas using not just coffee beans, but special blends with hidden flavors that send shivers down their spines. Word spreads of secret menu drinks that are said to hold addictive properties. Some claim they can change your very essence. One sip and they promise a transformation, energized, focused, even euphoric. Is there more to it than just coffee? As Starbucks spread across continents, whispers of a secret society began circulating. They say each barista is trained not just to make coffee, but to read the souls of their customers. The moment you walk in, they can sense your mood, your cravings. What if they're tapping into something darker? What if your favorite brew is just a facade? Behind the barista's grin lies a secret potion crafted to keep you coming back, again and again. Can we trust what spills from that ubiquitous green cup? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As customers move about, the atmosphere shifts, chatter turns to whispers. Tension hangs thick in the air. Every latte order feels like a gamble now. But wait. What was that? A sudden chaos erupts, an announcement over the intercom, shaky and urgent, warning of a contamination scare. Panic floods the café, faces pale in disbelief. Images dance in their minds. Was it their drink? Did they unknowingly consume something dangerous? Hearts race, palms sweat. And there, in the eye of the storm, stands an unsmiling manager behind the counter, her eyes dark and shadowed. What secrets does she hold? Is she connected to something bigger than we can imagine? As people rush for the exit, a single question echoes: was it all a clever ploy to keep them on the hook? What darker game are they truly playing behind that green logo? The chaos only grew. People shoved toward the exits, their frantic movements creating a whirlwind of panic. The thick scent of coffee mixed with desperation hung heavy in the air. Children cried, even as their parents urged them to stay calm. Doors swung open with a bang, and the once cozy atmosphere of the cafe turned hostile. In the midst of this pandemonium, the manager remained rooted, a sentinel of secrets and dread. Customers darted glances toward her, as if expecting her to unleash the truth about the contamination scare. But she stood still, arms crossed tightly, her gaze unwavering. It was unsettling, an eerie calm among the storm. Hey! What is going on? A voice broke through, a young man in a faded t-shirt edged closer. His voice trembled, laced with fear. Is the coffee safe or not? I need to know. Her eyes flicked up, catching a glimmer of light that sent chills down the spines of those watching. You shouldn't have to worry about that, she said, barely above a whisper, yet every word cut through the noise. What you should be more concerned about is why it's happening. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Questions buzzed in the air, but there was no time for answers. A figure suddenly appeared at the entrance, a man, disheveled and wild-eyed, clutching a coffee in one hand like a lifeline. Don't drink the coffee, he shouted. They've changed it. It's not what you think. The murmurs grew louder, eager and accusatory. Get him out of here. Someone yelled, unreasonably afraid of the truth that loomed just out of reach. Another woman gasped, clutching her chest, glancing from the manager to the newcomer, her confusion escalating. Stay calm. Everyone stay calm. The manager shouted, attempting control over the situation, but her voice cracked. Customers were pushing toward the exits, completely unaware of the chaos they were creating. As people stumbled outside, remnants of their coffee cups clattered against pavement, the sound echoed like a countdown. The young man from before looked back, searching for answers in the manager's dark eyes. What is going on? He implored again. What do you know? Everything, she replied, almost too smoothly. But do you really want to hear it? Without waiting for an answer, she turned away, heading toward a hidden door behind the counter. Breathless, the remaining customers exchanged glances. What was she hiding? Anxiety prickled the air like static electricity, something wicked was brewing. Follow her. The disheveled man urged, burning with urgency. You have to hear her. You'll understand. A few bold souls broke away from their frozen stances, creeping toward the door just as it clicked shut behind the manager. They could hear muffled voices, layers of sound weaving enigma and confusion as they huddled together. Fear tightened their chests. Their coffee cups were more than just drinks, they were keys to a world that twisted reality. Then, an unexpected silence fell over the café. Wait. Wasn't he there? An alarm. Glimpses of the outside world showed people gathering outside, many still clutching their drinks, questioning each other in hushed tones. Here, though, they were divided, some wanting to stay, some wanting to run. What lay beyond that door? And so, with hearts beating wildly, they stepped forward together. The stakes were high. Each one had a choice to make: continue the chase for dark secrets or retreat to the safety of ignorance. The doorknob turned, or was that the pulse of fate unwrapping? What awaited them on the other side? Would they confront the truth, or would it consume them whole? The door creaked open, and a blast of cold air rushed past them. They hesitated, glancing at one another, uncertainty pooling in their eyes. The wild-eyed man nudged forward, his breath quickening. We have to see, you need to know. They stepped into the narrow hallway, its dim lighting flickering like a heartbeat. A thick veil of apprehension hung over them, saturating the air. The murmurs from the café faded into the background, replaced by a low hum, a buzz of hushed conversations echoing through the walls. What was happening in this hidden part of the café? As they moved further down the corridor, shadows danced ominously. The walls were lined with photographs, all of familiar faces, people sipping coffee, grinning in blissful ignorance. But there was something about their smiles that felt wrong, tainted by an underlying darkness. The group slowed, unease blending with curiosity. What is this place? One of the women whispered, a tremor in her voice. We'll find out soon enough, the disheveled man replied, his eyes alight with urgency. They continued until they reached a door at the end. A bold red sign read staff only. With a nervous glance backward, he pushed it open. Inside, they were hit by a wave of chaotic energy. Machines hissed and whirred like restless creatures, tiny beakers bubbled over steaming hot liquids. The manager stood at a work table, peering intently into one of the beakers, her expression unreadable. She turned as they entered, and a flicker of surprise crossed her face, quickly replaced by a steely resolve. You shouldn't be in here, she said, her voice almost a growl. You don't understand what's at stake. Then tell us. The young man from earlier insisted, fists clenched. What the hell is really going on? What have you done? She sighed, tension radiating from her. I want to put you in danger, she murmured, retreating from them. But the disheveled man stepped forward, closer now. These people deserve to know. We're not leaving until you explain. A mixture of fear and anger brewed in the air. Suddenly, the lights above them flickered violently, plunging the room into semi-darkness. A low rumble followed a sound that felt like thunder inside a storm. The manager's composure began to crumble. This isn't just coffee. It's much more. We've been experimenting, she finally admitted, barely above a whisper, her eyes darting nervously toward the machines. We've changed the formula to enhance the experience, but it can be dangerous. What do you mean? Dangerous how? A chill gripped the crowd as her words sank in. Before she could respond, the lights flickered again, this time accompanied by a high-pitched alarm blaring through the hallway. The sound was deafening, filled with urgency and fear. "They're coming," the manager breathed, panic rushing back into her voice. "We need to leave now." But the group was frozen, grappling with the revelation that lay bare before them. The experimentations, the danger. Could what she said even be real? The disheveled man shouted, drawing their focus. "What do you mean, they're coming? Who is coming?" The air thickened with tension and bewilderment. Who were they? What did it all mean? Just as they turned to hear the manager's response, the door burst open, and a flood of figures in dark uniforms rushed in, faces hidden beneath masks. The atmosphere became charged with raw panic, heartbeats racing like thunder. "Run! Get out!" The manager screamed, her voice splintering like glass. Fear pierced their hearts, forcing them into motion. They stumbled backward, instincts kicking in, pumping adrenaline through their veins. But the door behind them was already being sealed, an ominous barrier between truth and terror. What awaited them on either side? Could they escape the encroaching darkness, or were they already trapped in a world unraveling at the seams? Would the truth stoke their desires to fight back or drown them in despair? They had to decide quickly, before it was too late. They scrambled for a way out, urgency flooding their bodies like ice water. The masked figures surged forward, intimidating shadows against the dim light of the laboratory. No one knew who they were, but fear grasped them tighter with every passing second. "Quick, this way!" The manager yanked open a side door just as the first dark figure reached them. A narrow staircase spiraled up into darkness. She gestured frantically for them to follow. With no time to think, they stumbled after her, the heaviness of dread weighing on their backs. The staircase creaked ominously beneath their weight as they climbed, the air growing increasingly stale, suffocating. Each step felt like a countdown, a reminder they were being hunted. Their breaths became shallow, panic clawing up their throats. What are they?" A woman gasped, clutching her friend's arm. The manager glanced back, her face pale. "Merchants of what we've unleashed," she said, her voice quivering. "They want to silence us. They think we went too far. Too far." Those words reverberated in their minds. Suddenly, the very idea of coffee felt monstrous. What had they been drinking? What kind of experience had they consented to? Their hearts thudded as they reached the top of the staircase, the door at the end appearing both a savior and a threat. She slammed it open and they plunged into a small room cramped with equipment, dimly lit by a few flickering bulbs hanging precariously from the ceiling. "No!" A shout echoed from the stairwell. The masked figures were hot on their tail. Time was slipping away. The manager pointed toward a single dusty window. "Break that. It leads to the rooftop." They lunged forward, adrenaline driving them to tackle the window with manic energy. With a crash, glass splintered and rained down, exposing a night sky sprawling with stars, a stark contrast to the terror lurking in the shadows below. One by one, they climbed through the jagged opening. A few leaned back, watching as the masked figures burst into the room, chaos unfolding. "Go! Now!" The wild-eyed man shouted, pulling the last of them through as a figure brandished something glinting in the dark, a threat, deadly and real. They landed on the rooftop, the cold air biting through their skin. It was dizzying up here, a void of city noise suspended beneath them. But before they could catch their breath, the chilling echo of footsteps reverberated through the stairwell. "We can't stay here." The manager clenched her fists, urgency written across every feature. "We need to find a way down. None of them wanted to look back. The figures below wouldn't stop until they captured them. The weight of their reality pressed against their chests like a lead blanket. The thrill of survival clashed with the horror of what they'd unearthed. "Where do we go?" a man cried, scanning the rooftop frantically. The answer was obscured by darkness until a light blinked from a distant building. "An escape. That way." the manager yelled, pointing toward the next rooftop. "If we can get over there, we can call for help." As they edged closer to the ledge, terror reminded them of their limited time. The figures were close, too close. Nails clutched the insides of their palms as they prepared to leap. "On three." The disheveled man barked, his voice steady despite the fear. 1, 2, 3. They jumped together into the night. And as they soared through the air, a singular question hung like a noose: was the fight for their lives just beginning, or was the real nightmare still lurking behind that lab door, waiting to be unleashed? In that moment, their fates hung in the balance, and the clatter of uncertainty drummed loudly in their hearts. They hit the next rooftop with a thud, a shocking impact that jarred the bones and sent a tremor of dread through everyone as they scrambled to their feet. The lamp from the distant building flickered, illuminating their terrified faces, painting them in wavering shadows. The sound of footsteps erupted from the staircase below, and an icy adrenaline coursed through their veins. "Move! Over there!" The manager gestured toward another ledge, practically pulling the nearest people forward. Each heartbeat echoed in their ears, a wild rhythm matching their frenzied pace. They dashed toward the edge, desperation fueling every step. The rooftop overlooked a narrow alleyway, a perilous drop waiting to catch anyone who faltered. Someone whimpered, anxiety bubbling to the surface as they gripped the cold metal rail, fear constricting their throats. "What do we do now?" a young man stammered, glancing back at the staircase. The fear of what was coming made it hard to breathe. It stung like the bitter chill in the air. "We jump," commanded the wild-eyed man. "It's our only shot." Their lives teetered unpredictably on the edge of insanity, the thought of jumping into the uncertain darkness firing adrenaline into their muscles. In the distance, sirens wailed, the haunting sound clashing against the chaos unfolding in front of them. 3-2 The moment hung in fragile stillness, the world holding its breath with them. 1. They leapt into the cold abyss. Gravity took hold, a fierce pull that seemed to stretch time, fear enveloping them like a thick fog. They landed hard, stumbling into the alley, blood roaring in their ears. Pain shot through their legs, but they hardly noticed. The masked figures were behind them, relentless shadows ready to pounce. "Go, go!" the manager urged, dragging everyone forward as they scrambled into the maze of side streets. Their breaths came out in frantic bursts, the salty tang of urgency settling on their tongues. "What are they?" the woman from earlier cried, her voice cracking under the weight of bewilderment. "What do they want?" The manager shook her head, panic etching deeper lines into her face. "They're here for the research. They believe it will give them control." "We have to reach the main road," warned someone. The alley twisted unexpectedly, each turn feeling like a cruel game. The dim, flickering streetlights threw sporadic patches of light that felt more threatening than welcoming. They could hear the distant clamor of footsteps, a reminder that they were not safe yet. Suddenly, the wild-eyed man halted. "This way." He beckoned them towards a narrow doorway partially concealed by shadows. Before anyone could question it, he plunged inside, the others hesitating only for a split second before following. The small room reeked of mildew, darkness engulfing them completely. They pressed against the walls, panting heavily, ears straining to listen. Footsteps echoed outside, drawing closer. They held their breaths, bodies frozen in sheer terror. Someone cleared their throat, the silence loud enough to drown out the thundering of their hearts. Then came the sound of breathing, ragged and uneven. Another presence was in the room with them. Panic filled the space, every tiny shift in the shadows igniting a firestorm of fear. What if the masked figures had found them? What if this was the end? The wild-eyed man whispered, "Stay quiet." Then, a voice cut through the tension, smooth yet menacing. You think you can hide from the truth? You unleashed something more dangerous than you realized. The reality of their research loomed larger than they ever feared. What had they let loose upon the world? And as they stood trapped in that suffocating darkness, each person felt the weight of their actions pushing them toward an unsettling revelation. What had they truly created, and who was this voice slipping into their reality like a thief in the night? Every second ticked painfully, the walls closing in, and the feeling of dread grew heavier than before. They had leaped into danger, but the true horror awaited just out of sight. The flickering shadows of the small room seemed to close in tighter, wrapping around the group like a noose. The wild-eyed man's gaze darted around, his breath quickening. Each raspy breath echoed painfully, magnifying their shared anxiety. The manager barely managed to whisper, "Who is it? Show yourself." The voice morphed, swirling around them like a chilling wind. "Are you really prepared for what you've done?" It taunted, laced with sinister undertones. The temperature in the room dropped, and even though their hearts pounded like war drums, a deep sense of dread rooted them to the floor. "Why are you doing this?" The young woman's voice cracked, rising above the heavy silence. Fear coursed through her, raw and palpable. "We didn't mean for any of this to happen." The figure stepped forward, emerging from the shadows like a ghost. Clad in a long, dark coat, their face barely illuminated but still exuding a menacing aura. "Your intent doesn't matter. You meddled with things beyond your understanding. What you call research is a harbinger of chaos." A shiver ran down each spine as the implications of those words sank in. "Chaos?" The manager echoed, her voice trembling. "What chaos? We were trying to help." "Help?" The figure scoffed. "You think that's what it was? Power always corrupts. The discovery you unleashed, it's beyond what you can control. You're merely pawns in a much larger game." Behind them, footsteps reverberated through the alley, getting louder as if an unseen army approached. Panic surged again, hitting them hard like a tidal wave. A nightmarish reality dawned on them, they were caught in a trap of their own making. "Listen, we need to get out of here," the wild-eyed man urged, shoving the manager toward the door. "Now." "No." The figure growled, blocking their exit. "There's no escape. They're coming for what's theirs." The emphasis on their sent ice through their veins. It became undeniably clear now there were forces at play far bigger than they had realized. "What did we create?" the young man muttered, his voice shaky. "What have we done?" The figure leaned closer, eyes glinting menacingly in the dim light. "You don't get it. The research was only the beginning. What you set free will bring devastation, and you will be the harbingers of it." A sudden crash echoed from the door, splintering their composure. The muffled shout signaled that the masked figures were mere moments away. Adrenaline surged through them. They had to act. "Go." The manager propelled herself forward, pushing against the dark figure, who staggered back with a hiss. The door swung open, revealing the stark contrast of the chaotic alley, shadows of menacing forms lurking just beyond the light. They surged out into the night, terror binding them together as they fled into the maze of streets. Behind them, the voice followed, a haunting whisper in their ears. "You cannot escape the truth." The pursuit was relentless, an echoing nightmare as dusk closed around them. Every corner they turned felt disorienting, from flickering streetlights casting ghostly shapes to alleyways that seemed to stretch endlessly ahead. "Where do we go?" someone shouted, heart pounding. "Keep moving," the manager urged, dragging the group onward. Yet, the deeper they ran into the twisting alleys, the more they felt the tightening grip of fear. They were spiraling further away from safety, the pursuit growing closer. Then, just as hope began to dissolve, the young man caught sight of something, a faint glow in the distance. It seemed like a beacon, a promise of release, of help, but as they stumbled toward it, doubt gnawed at his gut. What if it wasn't salvation? What if it was a trap? They had to decide now, stay and face their pursuers or run into the unknown. The looming darkness pulsed around them, holding its breath, waiting. The moment hung suspended in air, thick with unresolved tension. They could only pray that whatever waited ahead wouldn't be more horrifying than the truth they fled from. The young man, heart racing, looked over his shoulder, a gnawing instinct telling him they couldn't stand still. "We have to go," he urged, shoving the others forward. Each of them seemed hesitant, caught in the web of fear tightening around them. As they moved forward, the flickering light drew them closer, yet it felt like a mirage, an illusion in the depths of a nightmare. "Is that a shop or something?" The young woman panted, squinting and struggling to keep pace. "Maybe they can help us. Let us just hope it's not another trap," the manager muttered, her voice barely rising above the rush of panic. The glow pulsed, stronger now, as they dashed through the narrow streets, their breaths creating clouds of steam in the chilly night air. Each step echoed with the promise of safety, yet behind them, the shadows lunged, relentless and unforgiving. "Just a little bit further," the wild-eyed man shouted, pushing his limits. But the glow transformed into something more stark. It was a café, the neon sign buzzing to life over them like a beacon in the storm. As they burst through the door, a wave of warmth enveloped them, but it was tainted. The man behind the counter, with a piercing gaze, looked like he had stepped straight out of the shadows they just fled. His expression was weathered, tired, and somehow expectant, as if he had been waiting for them. "Quick, get in and lock the door," the manager shouted, closing it behind them with a heartfelt thud. It felt good to be away from the relentless chase, but an unsettling silence filled the quaint coffee shop. "What now?" the young woman whispered, collapsing onto a stool, her breath shallow. "Try to catch your breath," the manager replied, scanning the room. "Okay, let us think. We can't stay here. They'll find us. We need to." "Who are they?" the barista interrupted, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. "And what have you done?" "They were after us. Someone set them on us," the manager defended, eyes wide with anxiety. "Look around, it's not just about you. You opened a door, one that can't be closed. This town's got its own rules, and you broke them," the barista stated, his voice a low rumble. The lights flickered, eerily, as if responding to his tone. The group exchanged uneasy glances, panic igniting again in their chests. "What do you mean?" the wild-eyed man asked. "What door?" "Your research. It didn't just stir something in the shadows. It called to those who thrive in chaos. You've drawn them in," he explained, shaking his head like an impatient teacher. Just then, a loud crash shattered the calm. The door shuddered violently, as if something or someone thudded against it from the outside. The pressure of the unseen forces pressing against them became palpable, heightening their dread. "Get back!" the manager yelled, urging the group to retreat further into the café. The barista held his ground, eyes narrowing. "You need to understand, you can't simply run. That never works. The only way out is through. And there are places you can't go alone." "What are we supposed to do?" the young woman cried, tears welling up. "Please, we don't want any part of this chaos." The barista shook his head, pity washing over his face. "It's already too late for that. There is something you need to do, something that might just put an end to this. But it will demand everything." Then, silence fell, wrapping around them like thick fog. The reality they faced loomed large, hanging like a tangible weight in the air. Just then, the door buckled again as the masked figures began their assault, the sound of splintering wood screeching through the comforting air. "Remember," the barista whispered, his voice barely audible over the noise. "In darkness, you must find the light within instead of seeking a way out." The group's eyes widened with realization. What if they were meant to confront what they had awakened? But into what terrifying depths were they being led? The brewing storm outside was only a prelude to the chaos yet to befall them. The wooden door rattled violently as a mass of bodies threw themselves against it, the sound echoing like a death knell in the small café. The group huddled together, fear pulsing through them as they exchanged frantic glances. The barista remained eerily calm, seemingly unfazed by the chaos erupting just inches away. "Do you hear that?" The young woman gasped, her chest tight, every heartbeat a drum of despair. "It's just the wind," the wild-eyed man insisted, though his voice quaked. "It's not the wind," the barista said, his tone as steady as a rock in a raging river. "Those are the consequences of your actions. You've let them in." Outside, shadows flickered beneath the café's neon glow, grotesque shapes moving in and out of the light. The air thickened, charged with a tension that felt almost electric. Each rattling crash against the door made it clear the masks would break through at any moment. "Give me your phone," the manager managed to say, trying to think straight. "I'll call for help." "No connections here," the barista interrupted, his gaze chilling. "You're cut off. In this town, they don't let words travel from one place to another. Everything you try to reach will be swallowed up." "I need to try something," the manager said, backing away towards the counter, desperation rising. "No!" the barista shouted, blocking her path with a firm hand. "You don't understand. This fight isn't about what's outside, it's about what's inside." The manager's eyes narrowed, and a flash of defiance flickered across her face before she turned away. "What do you expect us to do then? Wait for them to break in? We can't just stand here." "Listen," the barista said, breathing deeply. "You need to embrace the darkness. To face what you've set loose." A gust of wind howled, shaking the windows. The masked figures outside paused, their silhouettes dark and threatening. An unsettling silence replaced their pounding as they whispered amongst themselves. "Now, we only have a moment," the barista urged. He turned to the group, a stark intensity in his eyes. "You all possess something they want. Your research has value. However, it's also given you the chance to become something more. But only if you confront your nightmares instead of hiding from them." "What are you talking about?" the young woman shouted, dread clawing at her throat. "We're the victims here." "But victims can become warriors," the barista argued. "This chaos demands sacrifice. Only those willing to confront their fears can find their way through the dark. You are not powerless, you can transform into the light they fear." The wild man stepped forward, clenching his fists. "What if we refuse? What if we let them win? Then you'll lose yourselves," the barista answered solemnly. "You're part of a bigger story. You've drawn them in, it's up to you to rewrite it." Suddenly, the door rattled with an ear-splitting crack, as splinters flew. The masked figures howled outside, the sounds blending with the night air, echoing a promise of terror. "Time is running out." The barista motioned urgently. "You have to choose now, face your fears or let the darkness consume you." Every heartbeat felt loaded with unspoken weight. The group exchanged frantic glances, awareness crashing over them like a tidal wave. As the door splintered under the weight of fists and boots, the group felt a surge of adrenaline, real and urgent. "Let us do it!" the wild-eyed man shouted, igniting a flicker of courage amidst the dread. But were they truly prepared to confront whatever darkness lay waiting before them? The moment of reckoning blurred on the horizon, and they knew it was almost too late to turn back now. The door buckled under another brutal thrust, sending the group staggering back. Fear twisted in their bellies, clawing at their sanity. The shadows outside formed a writhing mass, the whispers growing louder, an indistinguishable chant that echoed off the café's walls. "What do we do?" The young woman's voice cracked, desperation spilling into the air. She could hear her own heartbeat drumming louder as it drowned out the clamor outside. "We stand together." The wild-eyed man barked, rallying the group like a desperate general facing an unseen enemy. "We face them as one. Unity will not save you," the barista interjected. His cold eyes bored into the group, filled with a mixture of challenge and something darker. "You must confront your individual fears. Understand yourself to refute them. Remember why they come for you. What are you talking about, man? The manager snapped, fighting back her hysteria. We can't just sit here but before she could finish, the door flew open, sending wooden shards flying like splintered dreams into the room. The masked figures flooded in, grotesque and otherworldly, their empty eyes hunting for any shred of weakness. The group recoiled, but the barista remained rooted to the spot, as if grounded by an unseen force. Shadows surged forward, and for a brief moment, time seemed to stretch. The masked figures paused, assessing the group as if weighing their souls. Embrace the chaos. The barista shouted, his voice cutting through the suffocating fear. Now is your chance. Fight back. With a visceral roar, the wild-eyed man lunged toward the nearest figure, swinging wildly. His fist met cold plastic, and the figure staggered back, momentarily taken aback. Keep going. His own heart raced as adrenaline rushed through his veins. The momentum swelled in the group, igniting a flicker of hope. Others stepped forward to join the fray, fists raised. But the barista's calm was unnerving. He moved amidst the chaos with deliberate slowness, his expression knowing. This isn't about them, he whispered barely above the fray. It's about you. The masked figures huddled closer, their forms shifting with the darkness. They whispered secrets that twisted into tendrils, wrapping around the minds of the group, pulling at their fears. Mistakes, one voice hissed, slithering through the chaos. Guilt. Regret. The wild-eyed man stumbled, shaking his head as if trying to dislodge an invasive thought. No. Get out of my head. What do you fear? The barista called out. Speak your truth. Say it aloud. I failed. The young woman's voice broke, the weight of her past crashing down. I thought I could change everything, but I only made it worse. That's how they get you. The barista urged. Own it. Transform it. The wind howled outside, but it felt distant, like an echo of something long lost. With each confession, the group grew stronger. A voice from the shadows cried out, Your weakness is our strength. Not anymore. Shouted the manager, fists clenched, her voice rising above the din. One by one, they began to transform. Where there was fear, courage blossomed. They faced their fears head-on, shrouded in a newfound strength that defied the darkness around them, shattering the hold of the figures, but as they fought, the barista stepped back, watching, calculating. One thought flickered in the back of everyone's mind, was he truly their ally, or just another face in the faceless throng of terror? As the last of the shadows retreated momentarily, panting and soaked in an unfamiliar energy, the barista smiled, a glimmer of satisfaction igniting his expression. You've come this far, but the real battle has yet to begin. And just as dawn began to cast its tentative light over the chaotic scene, a new sound rolled through the air, a grinding, resonant noise that promised even greater horrors lay ahead. What more were they to face, and would they be ready when the time came? The dawn creeped in, thin tendrils of sunlight piercing through the café windows, illuminating the aftermath of the battle they fought. The air felt different, infused with an electric pulse, a strange mixture of resolve and trembling uncertainty. Each of them stood, breathing heavily, the warmth of the light contrasting sharply with the chill of the night's terror. Is it over? The young woman whispered, her eyes darting around, searching for the figures that had haunted them. Not yet, the barista replied, his tone a strange mix of calm and urgency. They're merely regrouping. This is but a breather. The wild-eyed man stumbled forward, a weary fire still blazing in his eyes. What do they want with us? Why target us? We're just people. You are not just anything. You've woven yourself into a part of a larger tale, a tale of chaos that was set into motion the moment you sought to control what you could not. That darkness seeks dominion over what you unleashed. The barista spoke as if his voice could wield the weight of revelation, solid and unyielding. The group exchanged uneasy glances, understanding creeping in like vines around their throats. They had gone too far and opened that dreaded door for knowledge, for power, and now they were faced with the reckoning. The manager stepped forward, determination rising in her chest. Then how do we end this? How do we reclaim control? The barista studied her, his eyes sharp and piercing. Face the chaos together. Unite your truths. Share your burdens. Only then can you transform it into something stronger than fear. Before they could respond, the air shifted behind them as the door burst open, revealing the masked figures once more. They were relentless, their features concealed, yet their presence filled the room with despair. Time is running out. One of the figures hissed menacingly. Claim your power now, or embrace your demise. The group huddled closer, hearts throbbing in sync as adrenaline coursed back through them. The barista gestured for them to step forward. This is the moment. Don't back down. What is it we're supposed to do? The young man shouted, grappling with the fear that threatened to consume him. Speak your truths. The barista urged, eyes alight with intensity. Your fears have held you hostage long enough. Transform them now. Use them against the darkness that seeks to define you. With a grounding breath, the manager closed her eyes. I had the chance to do something great, and I failed, but today, I stand because I refuse to let my mistakes dictate my future. Empowered, the wild-eyed man stepped forward. I let people down, but I can't take those mistakes back. I'll fight now. I'm stronger than my past. Each member of the group began to echo confessions, words of hurt and fear spilling out like birds breaking from a cage. One by one, they released their burden, the cracks in their souls filled with threads of bravery, weaving together a formidable shield against the masked figures. Stand strong. The barista shouted, gesturing them to form a tight circle. Channel your strength to face what lurks within. The figures edged closer, shadows swirling as they whispered words that sought to entrap. You'll never escape your past. You are nothing. But the group stood resolute, their hands clasping each other tightly, hearts synchronized. We are enough. They shouted as a chorus, together, we will stand. Bright light ripped through the café, enveloping them in a warm glow that drowned out the darkness. The shadows writhed, battling against the light, but one by one, the masked figures began to dissolve, their forms fading away like a fading nightmare. Further and further, they pushed back the shadows. The final figure screeched, "You think you've won? We know more than you could ever imagine." Then, in a sudden blink, they vanished, leaving behind a heaviness that hung in the air but felt lighter than the crushing weight before. Silence enveloped the café, fresh and bright. The group released their grip, hearts still racing, but a victorious fire danced in their chests. The barista stood tall, pride twinkling in his eyes. You did it. You faced the chaos, and you transformed fear into strength. But remember, this fight is an ongoing journey. Darkness will always seek the light, so be ready. The manager nodded vigorously, her chest swelling with newfound resolve. We will. Together. As they stepped out into the morning light, all felt different. They walked shoulder to shoulder, stronger and united, leaving behind the haunting shadows of last night. That it was not just victory over darkness, it was a transformation of self, an understanding that within the chaos lies the potential to change, and as they ventured onward into their bright future, they wouldn't just be survivors, but warriors ready to face whatever lay ahead. Together. If you enjoyed this story and want to uncover more amazing narratives, you need to subscribe now to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button with all your might to feed the algorithm. Let us know your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion in the comments below. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Your support is invaluable, and true fans know how important it is.